This presentation is on clearing methods of salt cedar for Smith Ranch and Deer Lease. The home place and North Pasture properties have steadily become overgrown with salt cedar. The need to initiate a safe and effective clearing method can no longer be ignored due to the abundant repopulation of salt cedar trees from what were once sparse bushes but that now have developed into dense thickets. After the 2012 wildfire, the salt cedars repopulated quicker than other vegetation and now pose to take over completely. Salt cedar are known for their unique methods of invading and taking over an area. Invasions typically occur in bare, moist, exposed areas, much like the riverbanks along the Double Mountain Fork of the Brazos. Salt cedar is initially associated with mesquite, cottonwood, and willows and appear to be a member of these naturally woody plants family. However, given time, this knotty sibling replaces the others. The salt cedar tree does not use more water individually when compared to other trees in the area, such as cottonwoods and mesquites, despite heavy infestations significantly altering the hydrology of an area. Since salt cedar is a more aggressive plant than the cottonwood or mesquite, it tends to heavily infest an area, and the higher number of trees use greater amounts of water. The aggressive invasion effectively chokes out native plants and takes away water from animals. In addition, when stream channels are stabilized, they become more immobile and inflexible, which progressively restricts channel birth. Salt cedar is a fire-adapted species with more efficient fire recovery mechanisms than nearly all other native riparian species. It has become common belief that salt cedar might have developed adaptive characteristics that enhance the flammability of the communities where they grow. In an interview with Monica E. McGarity, Aquatic Invasive Species Team Leader, Inland Fisheries Division Habitat Conservation Branch of the Texas Park and Wildlife Department, expressed the concerns that salt cedar would not only increase the likelihood of wildfire, but drastically increase a fire's mobility. Normally, rivers and streams act as a natural fire blockade. However, areas that are heavily infested with salt cedar, such as along riverbanks, increase the fire's ability to jump a river. Rivers that once natural line of defense against a wildfire, when infested with salt cedar, become a speed boost for the fire. In an interview with Donnie Grubin Sr. of Grubin Farms, he discussed how salt cedar rarely provides food or shelter necessary for the survival of wildlife. States that cows won't touch it, and most animals are negatively affected by the tree. It will come in and take over an area that previously housed vegetation that was a benefit to the wildlife and domestic animals. It is my professional recommendation that Smith Ranch and Deer Lease implement a clearing initiative to get ahead of the developing salt cedar problem. The findings suggest most detrimental is salt cedar's tendency to form dense thickets that displace native plants along rivers, alter the shape and function of streams, reduce water availability, and provide a way for fires to jump riverbanks. As a result, habitat for fish, wildlife such as turkeys and quail, and even livestock grazing is reduced. The dense strands of relatively young plants across the land have a negative effect on river flow, and the problem is getting worse. In the past years, the Double Mountain Fork of the Brazos would flood once or twice a year, helping to wash away any young saplings growing on the banks or dry spots in the riverbed. However, there is a dam that has been built up the river that provides a steady stream of water year-round. This dam provides optimal growing conditions for salt cedar. It has been recommended by Donnie Grubin Sr., Donnie Carl Grubin, John Haggard, and Monica E. McGarity that up to 500 acres along the river needs clearing. Clearing methods. Mechanical. Mechanical clearing methods researched were the use of bulldozer and uprooting trees. Going in with a bulldozer and grubbing does not work well. In an interview with Miss McGarity, she discussed the extensive collateral damage that is done to the land and surrounding vegetation from using a bulldozer to clear an area. However, that was not the main reason she does not recommend a mechanical clearing method. While going in and uprooting trees may provide the quickest visual solution to the problem of salt cedar, the roots actually remain intact and the trees sprout back by the next season. In an interview with Donnie Carl Grubin of J&J Farms, he discusses the high price of mechanical clearing in relation to the short-lived effectiveness of mechanical clearing. The salt cedar tree is not like a mesquite tree. The whip-like structure of the salt cedar makes it harder to take down than other trees. A bulldozer will only cut the tree off at the top of the ground and does not work well on the root system that is burrowed deep in the soil, resulting in a short-term, ineffective solution to a long-term problem. Biological clearing. Biological clearing methods researched were salt cedar consuming beetles and goats. In an interview with Monica E. McGarity and members of the Fisher County Land Conservatory, it was discovered that there is an existing presence of biological control beetles in nearby Stonewall and Kent counties. The Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, in cooperation with Texas A&M University, introduced the beetles several years ago. The work has undertaken not as an attempt to eradicate the trees, but an attempt to control the current spread of the tree and to loosen the grip the salt cedar held on the river. It was explained that large water draws are treated, but smaller creeks are left out in the government beetle control program. The beetles work by eating the leaves off the trees and preventing the salt cedar from using photosynthesis. The beetle likes new growth, which would make them a vital part of an integrated program that combines several different clearing methods. If the older trees are cleared, the beetles could be used to keep younger trees at bay. However, the beetles do have a downside. They are susceptible to the harsh fluctuations in weather. Beetle research is still in the early stages of development and needs to have more long-term research done before there is a definitive answer to which species of beetles should be used in this unique problem facing landowners. However, they remain in the running as a potential part of the equation to solve the problem of salt cedar. Goats. In a study published by the Society for Range Management, goats are discussed as a possible solution to the ongoing problem of salt cedar. The results of the study indicated that goats could be a potential biological agent to reduce the spread of salt cedar. The goats would be most effective in controlling salt cedar before the plant reached a mature size. When asked about the possibility to clear salt cedar, Ms. McGarity did not seem to think they held much promise. She believes goats would eventually just eat up the rest of the vegetation as well as salt cedar. Donnie Carl Grubin of J&J Farms did not see the goats as a viable option at this time. He had not heard of any specific goats that have been bred to eat salt cedar trees. However, he did say he could see a lot of promise in using the goats in the future, but not at this point in the clearing process. Chemical clearing. Chemical clearing methods researched were aerial spraying and spraying of individual trees from the ground. Aerial spraying. In an interview with Ms. McGarity, she discussed that before contracting someone to spray, an individual has to notify and apply with the Parks and Wildlife Department to have an aerial spray be done on any property. Individuals have to use friendly herbicides that are non-toxic to the water or animals. The chemicals do not require special permits or license to buy. Anyone can walk into a store that sells the herbicides and purchase them. For spraying large areas, Ms. McGarity recommends using a helicopter for the most accurate disbursement of herbicides. She also discussed that property owners must be prepared to have a 20-foot buffer in areas being sprayed due to the potential drift caused by wind. After aerial spraying, it is recommended to go back in with all-terrain vehicles and spray the areas that a helicopter was unable to reach effectively. In 2016, the Parks and Wildlife Department treated with herbicides 3,500 acres along 112 miles of the north and south fork of the Double Mountain Fork of the Brazos River to help manage the negative impact of invasive salt cedar. In an interview with Donnie Grubin Sr. of Grubin Farms, he recommended spraying 500 acres collectively from the north pasture and home place from a helicopter. Donnie Grubin Sr. has leased property from Smith Ranch and Deer Lease in the past and has always provided his unbiased opinion on matters concerning the land. Ground spray. As well, he discusses the need to follow up behind any aerial spraying for salt cedar with ground spraying. He discusses that while being a very accurate, aerial spraying cannot reach all affected parts of a river. He discussed how government programs in the past have sprayed along the banks of the Double Mountain Fork of the Brazos, did not spray in any of the smaller creeks or springs that feed into the river. These are important veins of water for the river and would be counterproductive to have the banks of the river sprayed without spraying the banks of the smaller creeks and springs. The trees that straddle the smaller creeks and springs, while not only providing additional water for the river, if left unaddressed, could send salt cedar seeds right back into the river after aerial spraying has been implemented. Evaluation of clearing methods. Mechanical. The mechanical clearing method shows promise for an area that has not heavily infested with salt cedar. The quick fix and short time span needed to implement this option is tempting, but the cost and effectiveness is simply too high to be practical. It is impractical to take this option seriously due to the number of acres that are in need of clearing. Biological. The biological clearing methods provide an attractive idea of being able to let loose goats or beetles and sit back and let them handle the problem. The beetles, while still in the early stages of development, hold the most promise out of the two biological clearing methods. The beetles also show the most potential of effectiveness out of the 3 clearing methods considered. They are a one-time feat that have the potential to work at clearing for years in the future. This is a highly desirable factor considering that all parties interviewed discuss how there is no one permanent method for clearing salt cedar. If you effectively get rid of an infested area, there will always be seeds being blown in by wind or carried in from upstream. This is a particularly troublesome characteristic of the salt cedar seed. However, price on beetles is hard to nail down. Chemical clearing methods meets most of the requirements for the clearing method needed at the Smith Ranch and Deer Lease properties. The chemical clearing method of aerial spraying, when coupled with a follow-up weed program, while not the cheapest option upon evaluation, is the most effective option, walking the fine line between environment, cost, and effectiveness. Final recommendation. After considering the various methods of clearing, it has been determined that an integrated method for clearing is the best option for Smith Ranch and Deer Release. This option comes highly recommended by various experts in the field of ranching, hunting, and government agencies delegated for dealing with invasive plants. The integrated method will consist of the aerial spraying method combined with a weed program, ground spraying, and implementation of salt cedar beetles. However, before committing to the integrated clearing method, I highly recommend waiting until after the summer of 2018 to see how much of the property the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department sprays along the banks of the Double Mountain Fork of the Brazos. Ms. McGarity, who is the head of the project to clear along the banks, personally recommended that we wait due to the possibility of government spraying in 2018. The integrated method will build upon long-standing relationships, help create new relationships with universities and government departments, as well as improve the functionality of the ranch and open up possibilities for the expansion of operations. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy this presentation.